number 2, which is all about driving in Mexico. So Kobe and I had to go back to the border for some business, and so we're doing the run again to San Miguel. And we are traveling on a holiday weekend. This is a major holiday. It's Easter in Mexico, and the traffic is just really heavy. So I think another thing I would add to tips is don't pick a holiday weekend for your trip to San Miguel. It really is adding a lot of time and just stress for all the amount of cars that are on the road. People don't necessarily know how to drive very well, and so it gets a little frustrating. So in addition to that, what I wanted to let you know is just a couple of things from the second video, maybe a couple stories. We have had a lot of things happen to us on the road, and also have had some interesting stories about getting our car permits and things. And so I wanted to just share a couple of those with you. So in video 2, I talked about the importance of mapping your location for your CIITEV into your phone. That's really important because the first few years that Kobe and I came to Mexico, we had a heck of a time finding that building, and it wasn't really something that we could map. It wasn't something you could find yet on your phone, and now that you can, it's just so much easier. It saves you a lot of trouble from just driving around Mexico when you first cross the border looking for that building. The other thing is getting your car permit, to pay for your car permit. Kobe is the titled owner of the vehicle, but I have the credit card. So we found out that you cannot pay for your car permit with a credit card that is not in the titled owner's name. And so what we had to do was actually stop and leave that building and cross back into Laredo and find an ATM, because there was no ATM in that building or on the Mexico side of the border. And so it cost us a lot of time because we had to cross the border twice to finish getting our car permit. And the other thing, I think, a thing that we did with the car permit, this was a few years ago, but we forgot to turn our car permit in. I had to fly back to the States for a family emergency, and Kobe had to drive the car back. So he crossed the border and forgot to turn the car permit in, and then when we were in the States, we sold that car. And so when we tried crossing the border the next year to go back to San Miguel, they would not let me title, or they would not let me permit the car again because I hadn't turned in the last car permit on the other car. And so I had to sign the title of the car over to Kobe in the car permit office so that they would let him get a car permit. And it was a big hassle. We ended up having to get that car that we had sold and take it to the border and have them clear that vehicle. I had to show them paperwork and clear the vehicle before they would let me take another car over the border. And
get our $300 back.
And it was about a 2-year process to clear.
Did we get it back?
No, we lost.
Yeah, we didn't get the money back.
And we lost the money too. We lost the money because we didn't turn the permit back in time. So, anyways, long story short, that was a big mistake, and don't do that. Turn your permit in before you cross the border. One year I got the car permit in the mail. You can order them online and get them in the mail. And I had my passport, but I forgot to stop at that building and get my passport stamped, and that ended up being a huge mistake too, because what happened was at Christmas I drove into Mexico City to fly home and visit family for Christmas, and I didn't have my passport stamped in that little paper that's supposed to be in my passport, my temporary visa. And they wouldn't let me get on the plane because I didn't have the proper paperwork to be in the country. And so I had to wait for the immigration office at the airport to open up. I ended up missing my flight. I had to book a new flight. I had to pay a fine for not having that permit. And I had to get that permit before I could get on the plane. So another costly mistake, dumb
12-hour camp out at Starbucks.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Catch our next flight.
We were at the Mexico City airport all day. We lost a day of travel, and we were in not a good mood. So
I was in a good mood. I didn't have to pay the fine.
the other thing is, as far as the dogs go, if you're crossing over with pets, it's a pretty easy process to do. There's just a couple of things you need to know. So 10 days prior to your crossing the border, you need to go get a specific permit from your veterinarian. So you take your pet in, they need to be examined and have a clean bill of health, and also have their shot record updated. So they will fill out that paperwork for you and give it to you, and then you just need to have it with you when you cross the border in case they ask to look at it. The other thing about pets is they need to be kenneled when you cross the border, which, you know, is always a good idea when you're traveling with pets. So I think the other thing I would say about travel is, now that Kobe and I have done this trip in the last couple weeks, is there is a lot of construction, and we were talking about it, and we think we think that they are really working on infrastructure in Mexico. It's really a positive thing because it's improving the road conditions and making them much better. But as you can see, there is a lot of traffic. So on this trip in particular, because it's a holiday weekend as well, we have been caught in a lot of slowdowns. So
This one looks like an accident.
and we have seen some accidents today as well because there's so many people on the road. So those are just things to be aware of. Avoid travel on holidays, expect construction slowdowns, and have your permits in order. Know where the locations are and program them into your Garmin or your map program before you cross the border. They'll be easy to find that way. Remember to have your credit card or cash to make that payment. There is no ATM in that building. And is there anything else you can think of, Kobe?
Can you give an idea how much it cost?
Yeah, I did provide a website for the costs of how much it costs to get your car permit. For what's the year of this car?
Yeah, they base it on the age of the car. The newer, the more it costs, I think.
This car was $300.
It's an 06. It's an old car.
But that information is easy to find online. So I did post a web address that you could go to for a lot more information about crossing the border and getting your car permit, and that is in English. I know a lot of the things that you look at are in Spanish, and so for people like us who don't read Spanish, it's hard to get information. But the one I gave you is in English. All right, I think that's it. Hasta luego.